historical corruption of the name Yahushua. Have you ever wondered why we call Mashiach Jesus instead of Yahushua? The answer might shock you. It's a story of cultural shifts, pagan influences, and intentional changes. If you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2, go back and listen to those now so that there are no gaps in what we're covering here. The name Jesus, a relatively recent development. The name Jesus, as it is commonly known today, has not always been used to refer to Mashiach. Its roots trace back to the Greek name Iesous, which was later adapted into Latin as Iesous, and finally became Jesus in English. This evolution wasn't a simple linguistic shift. It was a gradual transformation influenced by cultural and theological factors over centuries. What's striking is that the name Jesus didn't appear in English language Bibles until roughly 400 years ago, following the introduction of the letter J into the English alphabet in the 1600s. Before this, early translations like the Geneva Bible of 1560 and the original King James Bible of 1611 used Iesous or Iesous. This raises a critical question. If Mashiach's original name was Yahushua, a name rich in meaning and rooted in Hebrew identity, why was it changed? The shift from Yahushua to Jesus represents more than just a translation issue. It reflects the influence of Greek and Roman culture norms on believers in the way, particularly as the way spread beyond its Hebrew roots. By altering Mashiach's name, his connection to the Hebrew language, culture, and prophetic significance was diminished. Council of Nicaea's role, the influence of Roman pagan traditions. Did the Council of Nicaea alter the course of history by blending Roman pagan traditions with the faith of Mashiach? What if the roots of your worship are more Roman than Hebrew? Let's uncover the truth behind this pivotal moment in history. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE marked a significant turning point in early Christian history. But don't be confused. The early Christian history here refers to the Catholic Church, not the followers of the Way. Those beliefs in Catholicism, then and now, are not the covenant teachings of Yahuwah. It's different, and you'll see why. Convened by Emperor Constantine, it wasn't just about resolving theological disputes. It marked the merging of Roman political power, pagan traditions, and emerging Christian practices. But what did this mean for the original teachings of the Way? And how did it affect the identity of Yahushua HaMashiach? Let's explore. If you're unaware of the Way, it is documented throughout Scripture, but largely ignored by scholars and those who hate the Creator, Yahuwah. This video will cover the deeper meaning of the Way. But before we do, let's continue to talk about these pagan influences on the beliefs of the day. You see, Constantine, the Roman emperor who legalized Christianity, had one goal: to unify his empire. The church, fractured by disputes like the Arian controversy over the nature of Christ, became central to this vision of unity. Constantine wasn't just a political leader. He positioned himself as a religious mediator. History even writes that he even saw himself as a god. But his background was steeped in Roman paganism, a culture that celebrated gods with Hellenized names and deities tied to political power. This influence didn't disappear when he embraced Christianity. It shaped how the faith evolved. Sources like Eusebius of Caesarea's Life of Constantine document Constantine's role in church matters, including his desire for unity within the faith for political stability. The Council of Nicaea aimed to settle disagreements within the church, particularly about the divinity of Christ. These disagreements would not have been needed if there had not been a departure from Yah's original covenant with his people. But beyond doctrine, it set the stage for a cultural transformation of the Christian faith. Roman society had long been entrenched in pagan worship. Names and practices that fit neatly into Roman traditions were easier for the masses to accept. This cultural blending wasn't accidental. It was a strategy to make the faith more palatable to Greek and Roman-speaking audiences. This strategy allowed for the widespread use of terms and symbols, such as adopting the Chi symbol identified with Christos or Christ, which reflected Roman cultural integration. And you can see that symbol here. When combined, the Chi and Alpha and Omega symbolize Christ as the beginning, continuation, and end of all things. We'll share what Christ means in just a moment. But for now, Yahushua said in Hazon Revelations 22:13, I am the Aleph and the Tau, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Either Yahushua or Christ is the beginning and ending. Only one can hold that title. Since the original manuscripts say Yahushua, I'll stick with the original, not one man created. Historical theologians like Jaroslav Pelikan, don't know if I said his name correctly, but Jaroslav Pelikan, the emergence of the Catholic tradition, have noted how theological language and rituals were adopted for broader Roman and Greek acceptance. One of the most striking changes was the name of Mashiach. In Hebrew, his name is Yahushua, meaning I am he who saves. But Greek, the pagan language of the time, lacked the sounds to transliterate Yahushua fully. The name became Iesous, aligning with Greek grammar and cultural norms. This wasn't just a linguistic shift. In the text of the New Testament, historical linguists like Metzger noted that the changes were phonetic and grammatical rather than doctrinal. Right. This is the same lie Satan has been telling since he was thrown out of heaven. By adopting Hamashiach's name to fit Greek and Roman conventions, the connection of his Hebrew roots and the meaning embedded in his name diminished. Over time, the name Yahushua gave way to the Latin Iesous, or Iesous, which eventually became Jesus. The Roman society celebrated gods with Hellenized names like Zeus and Apollo. The suffix "us" found in Iesous mirrored these conventions, making the name of Hamashiach sound more familiar to Greek-speaking converts to Christianity. To be clear, Yahushua Hamashiach did not establish Christianity or the church. Yahuwah established his covenant with his people Israel forever. In Debrium Hayaman Aleph, 1 Chronicles 16:12-17. Remember his wonders which he has done, his signs and the right rulings of his mouth, O seed of Israel, his servant, O children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is Yahuwah or Elohim. His right rulings are in all the earth. Remember his covenant forever, the word he commanded for 1,000 generations, which he made with Abraham, and his oath to Isaac. And he established it to Jacob for a law, to Israel as an everlasting covenant. Yahuwah established his covenant with his people forever. It's an everlasting covenant. There isn't one single passage of scripture that says he abandoned that covenant and established a new one with the church or Christianity. The truth is, Yahushua said that he only came for Israel. It meant to Yahu, Matthew 10:6, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's who he sent his emissaries to. Then it met Yahu, Matthew 15:24, and he answering said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He's telling us exactly who he was sent for. This adaptation to Iesous wasn't just about linguistics, but about blending Roman cultural identity with the new Christian faith. Scholars like Robin Lane Fox, Pagans and Christians, have well documented the blending of Hellenistic culture with the early Christian theology. By the time of the Renaissance, the name Jesus had fully replaced Yahushua in most translations, obscuring Hamashiach's Hebrew identity. Why does this matter? Names in Scripture are more than labels. They carry identity, authority, and purpose. Yahushua's name declares his mission to save, directly connecting him to Yahuwah, the Creator. The changes made at Nicaea and beyond weren't just about convenience. They reflected a departure from the Hebrew roots of the faith. Understanding this history helps Israel return to the truth of Scripture and honor Mashiach for who he truly is. What is the way, and how does it differ from the religion of Christianity? Throughout the Bible, there is a phrase that keeps appearing, the way. But what does it mean? How does it differ from the religious systems we know today? And why is it so important to understand this path? I understand that many believe that the Torah and the prophets have been done away with, but you'll see that the way existed in the Torah and the prophets as well as in the renewed covenant. Scripture makes it plain that it is a renewed and not new covenant or New Testament. It's a renewed covenant. Yahushua called it a renewed covenant in Mark 14:24, and Corinthians Aleph, or 1 Corinthians 11:25. Yirmiyahu prophesied about a renewed covenant in Jeremiah 31:31, and Yahuwah calls it a renewed covenant in Hebrews 8:8. So let's set a foundation. In Yahuchanan, John 14:6, Yahushua declares, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. This statement is central to understanding the way. It's not a religion or a set of rituals. It's a path, a lifestyle grounded in faith, obedience, and covenant with Yahuwah. But the way is more than a concept. It's a journey demanding action, walking in Yahuwah's commands rather than believing in them. We can even see how a king had a downfall because he didn't follow the way. In 2 Kings 21:22, we read about King Manasseh, which says, and forsook Yahuwah Elohim of his fathers, and did not walk in the way of Yahuwah. His abandonment of the way led to idolatry, corruption, and the downfall of his kingdom. This story reminds us that stepping off the way isn't just a personal choice. It can have devastating consequences for families and nations. Those consequences are still felt by the scattered family and nation of Israel today. It also caused persecution for those on this path. Followers of the way weren't just ignored, they were hunted. In Acts 9:2, Shaul sought permission to arrest anyone found belonging to the way. What makes those in covenant relationship designed by and with Yahuwah such a threat? They rejected men's traditions and returned to the pure teachings of the Torah, combined with the faith of Yahushua as Mashiach. This is significant because it highlights that the way was countercultural. It stands apart from institutionalized religion and pagan practices. The way also represents a holy path. In Yeshayahu, Isaiah 35:8, the prophet describes the way as a highway of holiness. He says, and there shall be a highway and a way, and it shall be called the way of set apartness. The unclean does not pass over it, but it is for those who walk the way, and no fools wander on it. This is a path of purity, free from compromise, where the redeemed walk in faithfulness to Yahuwah. It also is a call for walking in integrity. In Messiyah, Proverbs 11:20 tells us, the perverse of heart are an abomination to Yahuwah, but the perfect in the way are his delight. The way is about living in integrity and faithfulness, not perfection, but a heart fully devoted to Yahuwah. There is a contrast between religion and the way. Here's where it gets challenging. Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam often blend Yahuwah's commands with traditions and doctrines. For example, Christianity has added holidays with pagan roots while ignoring Yahuwah's appointed times for feast. Judaism incorporates oral laws through the Talmud based on Babylonian teachings. Islam introduces a different set of laws altogether through the Quran. But Yahushua called us back to the pure, unadulterated way of walking with Yahuwah, faithfully, obediently, and free from human traditions. Here's what we need to do. As we read Tehillim, Psalms 119:1, which says, "Blessed are the perfect in the way, who walk in the Torah of Yahuwah." This is an invitation to walk in covenant with Yahuwah through obedience in his Torah and faith in Yahushua. So, are you walking in the way or following traditions that lead elsewhere? The way isn't about religion. It's about relationship, holiness, and a journey toward Yahuwah. Greek connections to paganism, a troubling association. The name Iesous in Greek is more than just a transliteration of Yahushua. It carries associations that warrant deeper examination. In Hazon, or Revelations 13:18, we find this warning. Here is the wisdom. He who has understanding, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. In Greek, letters also function as numbers, and the name Iesous has been linked indirectly to the numerical value of 666, 666. How so? Jesus equals Iesous and vice versa, which are made-up Greco-Roman deities along the lines of Zeus. Iesous is said to mean Hail Zeus. It is said that pagans may have had an easier time accepting this new demigod, Iesous, or Jesus, because Zeus was the chief god of the Greco-Roman pantheon. But here's where it gets really troubling. The name and description of Jesus Christ go together like hand in glove, so to speak. Those names are inseparable. Here's an eye-opener. The word Christ in the Bible lexicon is Strong's G5516. Those Greek letters in English are CHXST, which evidently translates to Christ. Here's where it gets really troubling, however. Those Greek letters are identified with the number 666. 666. That's right, the number of the beast. Stick with me. If this makes you upset, it should. Do yourself a huge favor and look it up for yourself. It's Strong's G5516. While this doesn't mean the name Iesous in and of itself is inherently evil, it's not righteous either. And it raises questions about the influences that shaped its adoption. Honoring deities such as Zeus often involved using Greek naming conventions, including suffixes like us. By conforming Yahushua's name to these conventions, the early translators inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, aligned Hamashiach's identity with pagan linguistic traditions. This connection underscores the broader issue. The name Iesous represents a departure from Hamashiach's Hebrew roots and blending with cultural practices that diluted his true identity. This shift also confirms a warning given by Paul to the Colossians. Paul is his Hebrew name, which means distinguished, and it's different from the Greek-derived Paul, which means small or little. Paul said he was from the tribe of Benjamin. See that again? Yah's name in the name? Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews. And we see that in Philippians 3:5. But in Colossians 2:8, he warned, "See to it that no one makes a prey of you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the elementary matters of the word, and not according to Mashiach." See, corrupt teaching was already at play even in Paul's day. Why understanding the historical corruption matters? The transformation of Hamashiach's name from Yahushua to Jesus reflects a larger pattern of shifting away from biblical truth to accommodate human traditions. It's not merely about linguistic differences, but about preserving the identity, authority, and purpose embedded in his true name. Recognizing the historical corruption, we are called to return to the roots of our faith, honoring Hamashiach as Yahushua. the one who comes in the name of Yahuwah to save his people. The question here, however, is who his people are. We'll cover that topic in detail in a future video because it's important to determine the context of what we read and understand about Scripture. And understanding who his people are helps us do just that. History shows how the true name of Mashiach was replaced. But why does this matter spiritually? Let's explore the deeper implications of this deception in the next video.